Hi, David. Welcome to the stage. How are you doing today?
Very well. Thank you, Emily.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm just happy to hand it over to you now. So to everyone listening, enjoy and offer him your full attention.
Terrific. Hi, everybody. My name is David Cho. I'm the Chief Procurement Officer for the University of Massachusetts system. I served in a similar capacity for BlackRock, an asset management firm, and was a strategy and operations consultant for a better part of my professional career. I appreciate obtaining a window with you to share in this very small period of time I have with you today, how the University of Massachusetts had this terrific opportunity to build a shared services procurement platform to support 5 campuses. To get a sense of its scale, UMass has over 75,000 students, over 500,000 alumni around the world. The system generates an estimated $7.5 billion in economic impact across Massachusetts. And with more than 23,000 employees, UMass is the 3rd largest employer in the Commonwealth. Faculty include a Nobel laureate, a Pulitzer Prize winners, members of the National Academy of Sciences, an American Book Award winner, Fulbright, Guggenheim, MacArthur, and Mellon Fellows. With $684 million in annual research and development spend, UMass is the 3rd largest research university in Massachusetts and the 4th largest research university in New England, behind only Harvard, MIT, and Yale. Now, what really hooked me to this institution is its mission to provide world-class education affordably. UMass students receive nearly $1 billion in federal, state, private, and institutional financial aid per year. And on average, UMass is more diverse than even Massachusetts public high schools. So folks, this is an institution where the university budgets for and manages throughout the year to achieve a year-end surplus, typically just between 1 and 2%, to ensure we live within available revenue, keep student costs affordable, maintain adequate reserves. In other words, its mission is to ensure it's efficient enough so that the tuition costs are lean. We have to ensure that education is as accessible to as many people as possible. When you target such low operating margins and you have very limited methods to increase revenue, the impact of a dollar saved has a tremendous impact to the organization and its mission. So this platform was spurred by that need, with the understanding that quality of service shouldn't be compromised and wouldn't be compromised. So the procurement platform is called the Unified Procurement Services Team, or UPST. And we launched this function in January 2020. What I'm about to walk you through is a view of our journey and how the UPST built this function up based on specific outcomes we continue to strive for. For those of you in the procurement space, it's really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity now to have a blank canvas to frame the kind of operation of this magnitude. So the materials I'm about to share with you today, they're for illustrative purposes. We're not going to do a deep dive into the content, but as I speak through them, I hope the supporting materials will at least help you conceptualize the actual deliverables, updates, plans that we shared with our constituents. We will be sharing how the roadmap of this program was shaped, how the foundation of the platform was built, where we are today working to stabilize this function, and how we've already started to future-proof UPST. Now, the key objectives are straightforward: high customer service, cost management, cultivate talent while fostering strong partnership with our constituents. We've summarized these goals with better, faster, cheaper. Better in the sense of building more robust partnerships, faster in modernizing policies, processes, and deploying technologies that enable speed, and cheaper in using more science to manage costs. The lay of the land at this point of building the foundation of UPST was an organization that had over $1 billion in annualized expenditures, a vendor landscape of over 17,000 partners, and a few other stats here that show the depth and breadth of the support that's required to generate a commitment of recovering at least $16.5 million in annualized cost reduction just in the first 12 to 18 months. So a much simpler view is here. I'm going to show you my Nirvana. So when a bald Asian guy starts talking to you about his Nirvana, you got to pay attention. Year over year, the institution may have about the same gunpowder to keep the organization running, yet Over time, what we want to do is ensure we can help shift the BAU, business as usual spend, and the associated administrative obligations over to a more transformative, higher impact set of investments so that our constituents can essentially do more for less, all while ensuring we mitigate as many flavors of risk as possible. So let's start with how we built the foundation. To build that framework, our assessment found on the top left competencies that were variegated across the board, because UMass, it's a federation of campuses with different needs, that while the targeted outcomes for procurement may have been similar, we were conducting business in 6 different ways, 6 different sets of policy standards, 6 different sets of operating procedures, so on and so forth. The technology stack on the bottom left was a bit of a spaghetti factory. The green boxes show where we want to be, yet even the same tools, many modules were just not talking to each other, and the same tools that might have been implemented across each campus were configured in very different ways. And so key investments were needed to ensure we could cover the entire gamut of transaction types. And then finally, when it came to the financial impact, that commitment I just referred to, of cost reduction, we needed to scale aggressively and share more sophisticated methods that organizations use, even as far as how firms going through restructuring or private equity companies deploy across their portfolio might consider. So based on that assessment, it allowed us to build a multi-year plan that we shared with our constituents before the formal launch. Again, I'm not going to go into details here, so don't expect to read each of the fine points, but the point is this. A plan was articulated that we will build a strong foundation across UPST, optimize that platform over time to ensure stability and consistency, and then future-proof this so our team has significant upside in their career paths while the institution can anticipate reaping the benefits year over year for the foreseeable future. Now, what was critical here in building this foundation was to ensure we framed a robust data set across multiple dashboards that allowed us to measure performance across quite a few different lenses. The KPIs, key performance indicators, provide visibility around tasks, customer service requests, contracts, savings, cycle times. These dashboards also flagged areas where there might be more friction. It is the basis of building a truly digital and data-driven organization. So now, today, we're at this stage of our gestation where we're optimizing the platform. We're currently about 1.5 years in since launch. What you might notice about this page relative to when we first started is a heck of a lot more data. I saw this great poster by one of our technology colleagues that shared something about our university president, Marty Meehan. In Marty, we trust, everyone else bring data. That's precisely what's being consumed to put together a much more targeted plan. During the foundation building, we were working to transition a lot of tribal knowledge from the campus procurement functions and keep those proverbial lights on. Now, during the stabilization period, we're using data to move from a shotgun approach to a more targeted method to address areas that are chronic pain points or have the highest upside potential with more of a laser targeted focus and precision. So using maturity models to conduct a balanced assessment of where we are, we were able to see what our current state is. That's the boxes, the bars in blue, and where our aspirational targets are. Those are the bars in orange across the portfolio. On a scale of 1 to 4, 1 being very basic and 4 being absolute best in class, we gave an honest assessment that we were around a 1.8, but we needed to strive to be closer to a 3 across the board, that dashed red line. So what's important to note here is that we accepted that we didn't need to be best in class across every procurement functional dimension to achieve the key outcomes we presented in the beginning of this storyline. We wanted to target the areas that had the greatest gaps. Anything beyond that, frankly, was racing towards milestones with diminishing returns, at least for our university business model. Now, it helped us build a strategic framework that factored the impact on the institution, on our constituents, and the timing requirements. So this is a very high level summary, but there are over 140 initiatives right now that we're institutionalizing across various policies, standard operating procedures, technology configurations, and competency development, all while navigating through the challenges of this pandemic and the health and safety priorities of the university. The use of analytics, digital tools, real market intelligence instead of the old school, hey, take 10% off the top method, has made deal making or sourcing activities really transform overnight. The team is empowered to utilize data and engage partners in a way that's unconventional, which has reaped unconventional returns. Being able to benchmark not only best practices, processes, but also prices has properly allowed UMass to ask for significant investments from its partners. And we're learning which partners we want to double down on and who we need to ultimately terminate relationships with. They could be as products that are as complex as, evaluating spectrum, clinical research assets like DNA sequencing systems, or as critical as COVID testing kits. At the end of the day, being armed and prepared with data might be certainly easier said than done, but it makes the team empowered when engaging our partners. So remember when I mentioned that 16.5 million cost reduction target in the first 18 months? UPST announced it achieved over 11 million in the first 6 months of launch, doubled that to 22 million in fiscal year 21. And even though we're just beginning our next fiscal year of 22, we're anticipating doubling that number yet again over the course of the next year in financial benefits. I'm going to go on a limb here by making a statement like that, aren't I? So maybe this is live, so I can't edit this out. So my next topic might be around the subject of career limiting moves, but I'm fine. I'll go out on that limb. So let's go into future proofing. So the first year and a half, as I mentioned, it's been a heck of a ride, but where exactly are we taking this? Thanks to the data that stems from our dashboards, maturity models, surveys, live feedback sessions, and even large virtual town halls, we have very strong visibility into where we need to go to ensure this is a sustainable platform. And where that takes us is our terrific team. I could probably talk about this for hours, but the culture of UPST was set up since day one to be inclusive, to allow for calculated risk-taking, to embrace constructive feedback as long as it has the right intent. Building tools so that there's significant transparency, it usually builds more of a consistent approach in terms of cultivating talent as well. So the review process not only forces a window to recognize great contributions of a team member, but it also highlights developmental areas that over time should build greater competencies, which would be reflected in higher performance ratings. So you can see that shift in where we want to be. And that kind of higher performance culture easily builds a win-win-win situation. It allows for greater upward mobility of the individual, greater strong contributions to the team and stakeholders, and frankly, again, the university reaps larger benefits. It's a simple formula. So let me start to build the connection between staff development and future-proofing the platform with this example. Procurement has a ton of areas that are eligible for automation. High volume, manual processes are plentiful, including in the AP space, where as much as we're migrating invoicing to more electronic formats, there will always be a need for some manual intervention, at least for the foreseeable future. But automating portions of these manual processes brings speed, greater accuracy, and even better methods to capture noncompliance. You think about telecom invoices. They're regulated by the local public utility commissions. Many will never be able to issue true electronic invoicing, which is why there's a whole industry, a separate industry in telecom expense management. So there will always be that gap of invoices that require manual intervention. So here's an easy example of where automation can take place. Invoice ingestion is a no-brainer. We're pinpointing which areas should be automated and built a framework to produce a business case that has to prove an ROI exists and that operational benefits are no-brainers to light up automation. So what this does is the business cases start to highlight where these automation opportunities can take place. So in this example, we're trending well from a metric standpoint, bringing our cost per invoice process down dramatically and building a path to extract even more efficiencies through automation over time. We take that framework and now we're applying it to other areas that are ripe for automation. And based, again, on that forecasted return, we can prioritize which areas should go first and whether we build that capability in-house with our UMass technology partners or even just buy it in the form of a managed service from a third party. So now let's connect the dots. What this also impacts in just a great way is that it allows our operational team members to get upskilled and learn how to retool themselves and future-proof not only their platform here, but their careers. There are more opportunities to move from manual activities to higher value, quality assurance, process optimization types of activities. Responding to false positives that the automation tool may flag allows our team now to focus on how do I remediate the problem instead of manual entry of data. So we don't need to rage against the machine. This can be a race with the machines. It allows us to rethink our engagement model so that the team is building greater influence, stronger career paths. Because frankly, there are areas in procurement that are dying out fast, and we would rather control our destiny instead of having to respond to imminent change and have our destiny controlled. And so that brings us to being able to shift ourselves to being that advisor and get that seat at the proverbial table that procurement officers continually strive for. We can now aspire to build true supplier management programs that take a risk-adjusted approach in managing the vendor portfolio to match our engagement with our partners and with our social values, to ensure that there's a balance of trade with diverse suppliers, that what we buy matches our goals in how it impacts the environment. And that strategic partners not only provide the best value, but they help us reduce all flavors of risk. So if this is set up correctly and we're headed in the right direction with great momentum, our university can expect to harvest operational, fiscal, and social equity benefits year over year. Thanks for the time today.
Hi, David. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you sharing your insights today. I believe everyone listening, of course, has gained true value from your presentation. So I'd like to move into a short Q&A session with you, just based on your insights and just of what you shared with us today. So firstly, I'd love to know really, what is UMass focusing on next with regards to their shared services journey? And what is UPST's role in this transformation journey as well?
Thanks, Emily. The beauty of this rollout and its future state plans is that it promotes more shared service model opportunities across the university. And if we're able to share this one slide that we can throw up, but any large organization that may have some dimension of a federation of entities or a broader geographic footprint, high growth, whether it's organic or through mergers potential, especially in the higher ed space, has to consider this. It's the same reason why M&A activities are absolutely warranted. There are benefits to scale. I think the UPST's role in that broader shared services journey is it presents the art of the possible, across many different areas of opportunity.
Amazing. And obviously your presentation was extremely informative. I mean, the charts, it was truly fascinating to see. So thank you for that. I kind of wanted to ask, what are some of the elements that have been driving forces for UPST's success through this rollout that perhaps wasn't actually in your presentation today?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that because that's a great question. And there's a handful of things, but much of it stems from leadership support. The resolve and certainly influence. The executive leadership of UMass, senior members across the university, they thoughtfully considered so many dimensions of the plan. The CFOs of the campuses, who are called the vice chancellors, to the CEOs, the chancellors. they made that strategic commitment, and this went all the way up to the president of the university system and even the board of trustees at that level. They were heavily involved in taking what is a calculated risk, and it certainly took many professionals across UMass campuses to be willing to place their political capital, their influence, their limited time on the line to do the right thing. I think certainly our constituents were key as well. They really needed to be patient and provide direction. But what was significant about the UMass community, they didn't just point out problems and grievances. The really strong contributors brought solutions to the table and then allowed for the time to make these changes happen. And there were certainly key third-party partners who made an investment into UMass. I can't name them all, but you can tell who are the forward thinkers, those who really care about the mission of higher ed, those who made commitments and actually acted on them. And I'm happy to share those offline over time for those who want to have that conversation. But don't get me wrong, it also created a great opportunity for folks like me to see who's made out of hot air. So, I think the final leg of this is our team, at the UPST, I think has been tremendous. They're willing to build the right culture. They have a great deal of patience, very adaptable, considering the pandemic hit us right during launch. And there really continues to be a strong willingness to learn and try new things, which is what you'd hope for when you're in the business of education. So, I think we're learning the art and teaching the art of influence when you don't have authority, especially in a very democratized culture like in higher ed. And I love these challenges because, I understand why an institution like this has to be democratized, where everyone's opinion matters and is protected. That's why we have the world-class research and faculty we do today. So, I think the fact that, my team, our stakeholders, leadership, our partners, they certainly have patience working with a direct guy as like me, who's not very nuanced. So certainly grateful to be part of the organization.